Well, the Basic Education Minister, Siviwe Gwarube, has published guidelines for the implementation of the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, or the Bela Act. These, let's refer to it as the Bela Act. These guidelines partially easing some of the contentious aspects of the Act, but only temporarily. They limit the authority of provincial heads of department to interfere with schools' language and admissions policies, but the guidelines don't fully resolve all concerns related to the Act. Let's unpack the story further with the South African Democratic Teachers Union, Sadtu. Its spokesperson, Nomusa Cembi, joins us this afternoon. Nomusa, thanks very much for your time. And I think it's important to point out that this is a law that has stirred a considerable amount of public and political debate, but it is now an act that is officially in force. Now it's about how we implement it.
Yes, you are quite correct. The law is now should be implemented. However, as such, we totally reject these guidelines because we believe that the minister has got no authority to be making these guidelines. The law allows. We were expecting the minister to come up with the regulations and not the guidelines. It is not her chair, so we believe that these guidelines are unlawful, and we urge school governing bodies as well as the MECs for education in the provinces not to send these guidelines to schools because they were the minister didn't follow the correct process. What we're expecting as the union from the minister are the regulations. That's what the law requires her to do. Instead of doing the regulations, she has put up the guidelines. We believe she is delaying the process that should lead to the full implementation of the Bela Act.
Yeah, or particular sections of the Act, for example, sections 4 and 5. But Nomusa, these guidelines don't carry any legal weight. So why does Sadtu have such a problem with it?
We have a problem with that too, that she can go all the way and produce these guidelines, and at the end of the day, she says they are non-binding. This is causing confusion, further confusion to schools and to the authorities in the provinces as to whether they should follow them or not. Why spend so much time and come up with guidelines, and at the end of the day, you say they are non-binding? So we believe that all these are delaying tactics that are meant to delay the process of implementing the Act.
No, certainly. It is confusing. And I suppose what the aim of the guideline, certainly on the face of it, is so that the authority of provincial heads of department is restricted somewhat, right? So that they don't interfere with schools' language and admissions policies.
We are surprised at that because the law allows the heads of department to interfere in some aspects, and in that interference, it should also involve engaging with the stakeholders. The law allows the heads of department to do interfere. So we are really surprised now that their rights will be restricted, which is the opposite of what the law says.
So this adds up with what you were saying earlier, Nomusa, the fact that, we know that the Democratic Alliance in part was also opposed to these particular parts of the Bela bill at the time. And we know that the minister is a member of the DA party. Is that what Sadtu is saying? That the minister, by virtue of the fact that she's a member of the Democratic Alliance, is using a position to push a DA agenda?
Yes, judging by the process, you know very well what happened, the process of the Bela bill, the pushback from the DA and the pushback from the minister. So now, instead of implementing, we see the minister doing what she's not supposed to do in terms of the law, coming up with guidelines instead of coming up with regulations. So really, this makes us further not to believe her that really she's sincere about the implementation of these acts. And further, now we hear that there is some restriction of powers of HODs, which really we were aware when they were opposing to this, they were saying the law is giving too much powers to government and taking away the powers of school governing bodies. And we said, as Sadtu, we said that was not true. The HODs interfere when they see that what is being done is not aligning with the constitution of the country, is not ensuring that the right of the child to learn is protected.
Yeah,
so we really believe that the minister really is pushing the agenda of the DA instead of pushing the agenda of ensuring that the Act is implemented in full.
In other cases, Nomusa, are there certain laws governing how schools are meant to be run, and government departments, the Basic Education Department, would send like a list of guidelines of how things should be implemented? Has this kind of thing happened before? Procedurally, does it make sense?
The Bela Act we are talking about, it's amending the South African Schools Act. And in fact, now it should be the South African Schools Act, amended South African Schools Act, not even Bela Act. So there are laws that were there before. So what this the Bela Act was amending the laws that were there. Some of the powers that were there already, and they are just being amended to align with the Constitution and to align with the previous court judgments that have been made regarding this, regarding admission policies and language policies in our schools. So what is happening is not that we are starting from scratch, but it's just aligning what is there already in the system. And we feel that it shouldn't take this long to have regulations put in place. The law requires that after the Act has been promulgated, then the minister must come up with regulations as to how this the Act will actually be implemented, not guidelines.
So you're saying not guidelines, what we need is regulations?
Yes, we need regulations, not guidelines.
So what's going to be your advice as Sadtu to schools around this issue of the guidelines that the minister has sent out?
Would urge the schools to ignore these guidelines because they are causing confusion, and worst of all, they are not even binding. So we are saying ignore these guidelines and let us wait for the regulations to be in place, and then we can work with the regulations in place, not the guidelines.
All right, Nomusa Cembi, thanks for your time this afternoon. She's the Sadtu spokesperson. And if we take a look at the history of the Bela Act and who was for and against the Act, which political parties, there's some reaction from them around these guidelines. From the FF+, the party has welcomed the guidelines, saying it mitigates the most severe risks posed by the Bela Act. And then, other parties as well and organizations, including AfriForum and Solidarity, saying that the guidelines are a tactical breakthrough. And it was a specific input from AfriForum Solidarity. Afrikaans schools are already overcrowded in most cases, and now there's some form of protection. That's according to those organizations. But we continue to track that story.